a big mountain and tear it to pieces. In this way, he created great disturbances all over the country, especially in the province of Katwar. The city of Dwarka was situated in this Katwar province. And because Lord Krishna used to live in this city, Dvita specifically made it his target of disturbance.
Dvita was so powerful as 10,000 elephants. Sometimes he would go to the seashore and with his powerful hands he would create so much disturbance in the sea that he would flood the neighborhood cities and villages. Often he would go to the hermitage of a great saintly person and the sages and cause a great disturbance by smashing their beautiful gardens and orchard. Not only did he create the disturbance in that way, but sometimes he would pass urine and stool on their secret sacrifice area. He would thus pollute the whole atmosphere. He also kidnapped both men and women, taking them away from their residence place to the caves of the mountains. After putting them within the caves, he would close the entrance with a large chunk of the stone, like the brilliant insect which arrests and carries away many flies and other insects and puts them within the hole of the tree where it lives. Thus Dvita regularly defined the law and order of the country. Not only that, but he would sometimes pollute the female members of many aristocratic families by forcing raping them.
While creating such great disturbance all over the country, sometimes he heard very sweet musical sounds from Raivataka mountain, and so he entered the mountainous region. There he saw Lord Balram in the midst of many beautiful young girls enjoying their company while singing and dancing. Divida became captivated by the beauty of Lord Balram's body, whose every feature was very beautiful, decorated as he was with a garland of lotus flowers. Similarly, all the young girls present, dressed and garlanded with flowers, exhibited much beauty. Lord Balram seems fully intoxicated from drinking the Varuni beverages, and his eyes appeared to be rolling in the drunken state. Lord Balram appeared just like the king of the elephants in the midst of many she elephants.
This gorilla, by the name Dvita, could climb up into the trees and jump from one branch to another. Sometimes he would jerk the branches, creating a particular type of sound, kila, so that Lord Balram was greatly distracted from the pleasing atmosphere. Sometimes Dvita would come before the women and exhibit different types of caricatures. By nature, young women are apt to enjoy everything with laughter and joking. And when Gorilla came before them, they did not take him seriously, but simply laughed at him. However, the gorilla was so rude that even in the presence of Balram, he began to show the lower part of his body to the women. And sometimes he would come forward to show his teeth while moving his eyebrows. He disrespected the women, even in the presence of Balram. Lord Balram's name suggests not only that he is very powerful, but that he takes pleasure in exhibiting extraordinary strength. So he took a stone and threw it at Dvita. The gorilla, however, artfully avoided being struck by the stone. In order to insult Balram, the gorilla took away the earthen pot in which the Varuni was kept. Dvivida, being thus intoxicated with his limited strength, began to tear off all the valuable clothes worn by Balram and the accompanying young girls. He was so puffed up that he thought Balram could not do anything to chastise him, and he continued to offend Balramji and his companions.
When Lord Balaram saw the disturbances created by the gorilla and heard that he had already performed many mischievous activities all over the country, he became very angry and decided to kill him. Immediately, he took his club in his hands. The gorilla could understand that now Balaram was going to attack him. To counteract Balaram, he immediately uprooted a big oak tree, and with great force he came and struck Lord Balaram's head. Lord Balaram, however, immediately caught hold of the big tree and remained undisturbed, just like a great mountain. To retaliate, he took his club, named Sunanda, and hit the gorilla with it, severely injuring his head. Currents of blood flowed from the gorilla's head with great force, but the stream of blood simply enhanced his beauty, like a stream of liquid manganese coming out of a great mountain. The striking of Balaram's club did not even slightly disturb him. On the contrary, he immediately uprooted another big oak tree, and after clipping off all its leaves, again struck Balaram's head with it. But Balaram, with the help of his club, tore the tree to pieces. Since the gorilla was very angry, he took another tree in his hands and struck Lord Balaram's body. Again, Lord Balaram tore the tree to pieces, and the fighting continued. Each time the gorilla would bring out a big tree to strike Balaram, Lord Balaram would tear the tree to pieces by the striking of his club, and the gorilla Dvivida would clutch another tree from another direction and again attack Balaram in the same way. As a result of this continuous fighting, the forest became treeless.
Very good questions. Yes. Professional questions.
When no more trees were available, he was most angry. Since the gorilla was striking him with his hands, Lord Balaram would not strike him back with his own weapons, the club or the plow. Simply with his fists, he struck the collarbone of the gorilla. This blow proved fatal to Dvivida, who immediately vomited blood and fell unconscious upon the ground. When the gorilla fell, all the hills and forests appeared to totter. After this horrible incident, all the siddhas, great sages, and saintly persons from the upper planetary systems showered flowers on the person of Lord Balaram and vibrated sounds glorifying his supremacy. All of them chanted, "All glories to Lord Balaram. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet. By killing this great demon, Dvivida, you have initiated an auspicious era for the world." All such jubilant sounds of victory were heard from outer space. After killing the great demon, Dvivida, and being worshipped by showers of flowers and glorious sounds of victory, Balarama returned to his capital city, Dwarka. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta Purport of the 67th chapter of Krsna, the deliverance of Dvivida Gorilla.
Well, Dvivida is dead.
Here, you're next. How are you going
To do what?
Chapter 68.
You're going to read another chapter?
Yeah, we keep going till an hour.
Keep going. I was just relishing the picture in my mind of a bloody ape on the ground. It's all just Krishna's playpen.
Yeah.
The whole thing is arranged like that. so he can have fun. The marriage of Samba. Duryodhana, the son of Dhritarashtra, had a marriageable daughter by the name of Lakshmana. She was a very highly qualified girl of the Kuru dynasty, and many princes wanted to marry her. In such cases, the Swayamvar ceremony is held so that the girl may select her husband according to her own choice. In Lakshmana's Swayamvar assembly, when the girl was to select her husband, Samba appeared. He was a son of Krishna's by Jambavati, one of Lord Krishna's chief wives. This son, Samba, was so named because he was a pet child and always lived close to his mother. The name Samba indicates a son who was very much his mother's pet. Amba means mother, and Sa means with. So, this special name was given to him because he always remained with his mother. He was also known as Jambavati Sutta for the same reason. As previously explained, all the sons of Krishna were as qualified as their great father. Samba wanted Duryodhana's daughter, Lakshmana, although she was not inclined to have him. Oh. Therefore, Samba kidnapped Lakshmana by force from the Swayamvar assembly. No, no.
Now he passes.
Because Samba took Lakshmana away from the assembly by force, all the members of the Kuru dynasty, such as Dhritarashtra, Bhishma, Vidura, and Arjuna, thought it an insult to their family tradition that the boy Samba could possibly have kidnapped their daughter. All of them knew that Lakshmana was not at all inclined to select him as her husband, and that she was not given the chance to select her own husband. Instead, she was forcibly taken away by this boy. Therefore, they decided that he must be punished. They unanimously declared that he was most impudent and had degraded the Kuru's family tradition. Therefore, all of them, under the counsel of elder members of the Kuru family, decided to arrest the boy but not kill him. They concluded that the girl could not be married to any boy other than Samba, since she had already been touched by him. According to the Vedic system, once being touched by some boy, a girl cannot be married or given to any other boy. Nor would anyone agree to marry a girl who had already thus associated with another boy. The elder members of the family, such as Bhishma, wanted to arrest him. Thus, all the members of the Kuru dynasty, especially the great fighters, joined together just to teach him a lesson. And Krsna was made the commander-in-chief for this small battle.
While making the plan to arrest Samba, the Kurus consulted amongst themselves that upon his arrest, the members of the Yadu dynasty would be very angry with them. There was every possibility of the Yadus accepting the challenge and fighting with them. But they also thought, if they came here to fight with us, What could they do? The member of the Yadu dynasty cannot equal the members of the Kuru dynasty because the king of the Kuru dynasty are the emperors, whereas the king of the Yadu dynasty are able to enjoy their land only because politically they will be subdued under pressure, as their sense are subdued by the mystic yoga process of pranayama. In the mechanical system of mystic yoga, the airs within the body are controlled and the senses are subdued and checked from being engaged in anything other than meditation upon Lord Vishnu.
Sala, Bhuri, Yajnaketu, and Duryodhan, the father of the girl, who were all Maharathis and who were guided by the great fighter Bhishma Dev, attempted to arrest the boy Samba. There are different grades of fighters, including Maharathi, Ekrathi, and Rathi, classified according to their fighting ability. These Maharathis could fight along with many thousands of men. All of them combined together to arrest Samba. Samba was also a Maharathi, but he was alone and had to fight with the 6 other Maharathis. Still, he was not deterred when he saw all the great fighters of the Kuru dynasty coming up behind him to arrest him.
Alone, he turned towards them and took his nice bow, posing exactly as a lion stands adamant in the face of other animals. Karna was leading the party, and he challenged Samba. "Why are you fleeing? Just stand, and we shall teach you a lesson." When challenged by another Kshatriya to stand and fight, a Kshatriya cannot go away. He must fight. Therefore, as soon as Samba accepted the challenge and stood alone before them, he was overpowered by showers of arrows thrown by all the great warriors. As a lion is never afraid of being chased by many wolves and jackals, similarly Samba, the glorious son of the Yadu dynasty, endowed with inconceivable potencies as the son of Lord Krsna, became very angry at the warriors of the Kuru dynasty for improperly using arrows against him. He fought them with great talent. First of all, he struck each of the 6 charioteers with 6 separate arrows. Another 4 arrows he used to kill the charioteers' horses, 4 on each chariot.
Then he used 1 arrow to kill the driver and 1 arrow for Karna as well as the other celebrated fighters. While Samba so diligently fought alone with the 6 great warriors, they all appreciated the boy's inconceivable potency. Even in the midst of the fighting, they admitted frankly that this boy, Samba, was wonderful. But the fighting was conducted in the Kshatriya spirit. So altogether, although it was improper, they obliged Samba to get down from his chariot, now broken to pieces. Of the 6 warriors, 4 took care to kill Samba's 4 horses. 1 struck down his chariot driver, and 1 managed to cut the string of Samba's bow so that he could no longer fight with them. In this way, with great difficulty and after a severe fight, they deprived Samba of his chariot and were able to arrest him. Thus, the warriors of the Kuru dynasty accepted their great victory and took their daughter Lakshmana away from him. Thereafter, they entered the city of Hastinapur in great triumph.
The great sage Narada immediately carried the news to the Yadu dynasty that Samba had been arrested and told them the whole story. The members of the Yadu dynasty became very angry at Samba's being arrested and improperly so by 6 warriors. Now, with the permission of the head of the Yadu dynasty, King Ugrasena, they prepared to attack the capital city of the Kuru dynasty.
Although Lord Balaram knew very well that by slight provocation people are prepared to fight with one another in the age of Kali, he did not like the idea that the 2 great dynasties, the Kuru dynasty and the Yadu dynasty, would fight amongst themselves, even though they were influenced by Kali Yuga. Instead of fighting with them, he wisely thought, let me go there and see the situation, and let me try to see if the fight can be settled by mutual understanding. Balaram's idea was that if the Kuru dynasty could be induced to release Samba along with his wife Lakshmana, then the fight could be avoided. He therefore immediately arranged for a nice chariot to go to Hastinapur, accompanied by learned priests and Brahmins, as well as by some of the elder members of the Yadu dynasty. He was confident that the members of the Kuru dynasty would agree to this marriage and avoid fighting with the Yadus. As Lord Balaram proceeded toward Hastinapur in his chariot, accompanied by the Brahmins and elders, he looked like the moon shining in the clear sky amongst the glittering stars. When Lord Balaram reached the precincts of the city of Hastinapur, he did not enter, but stationed himself in a camp outside the city in a small garden house. Then he asked Uddhava to meet with the leaders of the Kuru dynasty and inquire from them whether they wanted to fight with the Yadu dynasty or to make a settlement. Uddhava went to see the leaders of the Kuru dynasty, and when he met all the important members, including Bhishmadev, Dhritarashtra, Dronacharya, Duryodhan, and Balika, after offering them due respects, he informed them that Lord Balaram had arrived at the garden outside the city gate.
The leaders of Kuru dynasty, especially Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, were joyful because they knew very well that Lord Balaram was a great well-wisher of their family. There were no bound of their joy on hearing the news, and so they immediately welcomed Uddhava. In order to properly receive Lord Balaram, they all took their hands auspicious paraphernalia for his reception and went to see him outside the city gate. According to their respective position, they welcomed Lord Balaram by giving him in charity nice cows and a mixture of earthy water and associate of items such as honey, butter, flour, and sandalwood plum. Because all of them knew the exact position of Lord Balaram as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they bowed their heads before the Lord with a great respect. They all exchanged words of reception and by asking one another their welfare, and when such formalities were finished, Lord Balaram in a great voice and very patiently submitted before them the following words for their consideration. My dear friends,
Okay. My dear friends, this time I have come to you as a messenger with the order of all-powerful King Ugrasena. Please therefore hear the order with attention and great care. Without wasting a single moment, please try to carry out the order. King Ugrasen knows very well that your warriors of the Kuru dynasty improperly fought with the pious Samba, who was alone, and that with great difficulty and unrighteous tactics you have arrested him. We have all heard this news, but we are not very much agitated because we are most intimately related to one another. I do not think we should disturb our good relationship. We should continue our friendship without any unnecessary fighting. Please therefore immediately release Samba and bring him, along with his wife Lakshmana, before me.
When Lord Balrama spoke in a commanding tone, full of heroic assertion, supremacy, and chivalry, the leaders of the Kuru dynasty did not appreciate his statement. Rather, all of them became agitated, and with great anger they said, "Hello, these words are very astonishing, but quite befitting the age of Kali. Otherwise, how could Balrama speak so vituperatively? The language and tone used by Balrama are simply abusive. And due to the influence of this age, it appears that the shoes befitting the feet want to rise to the top of the head where the helmet is worn. We are connected with the Yadu dynasty by marriage, and because of this, they have been given the chance to come live with us, dine with us, and sleep with us. Now they are taking advantage of these privileges."
They had practically no position before we gave them before we gave them a portion of our kingdom to rule, and now they are trying to command us. We have allowed the Yadu dynasty to use the royal insignias like the whisk, fan, conch, shell, white umbrella, crown, royal throne, sitting place, and bedstead, along with everything else befitting the royal order. They should not have used such royal paraphernalia in our presence, but we did not check them due to our family relationships. Now they have the audacity to order us to do things. Well, enough of their impudence. We cannot allow them to do any more of these things, nor shall we allow them to use these royal insignias. It would be best to take all these things away. It is improper to feed a snake with milk, since such merciful activities simply increase his venom. The Yadu dynasty is now trying to go against those who have fed them so nicely. Their flourishing condition is due to our gifts and merciful behavior, and still they are so shameless that they are trying to order us. How regrettable are all these activities! No one in the world can enjoy anything if members of the Kuru dynasty like Bhishma, Dronacharya, and Arjuna do not allow them to. Exactly as a lamb cannot enjoy life in the presence of a lion, without our desire, it is not even possible for the demigods in heaven, headed by King Indra, to find enjoyment in life. What to speak of ordinary human beings? Actually, the members of the Kuru dynasty were very much puffed up due to their opulence, kingdom, aristocracy, family tradition, great warriors, family members, and vast, expansive empire. They did not even observe common formalities of civilized society, and in the presence of Lord Balaram, they uttered insulting words about the Yadu dynasty. Having spoken in this unmannerly way, they returned to their city of Hastinapur.
Although Lord Balaram patiently heard their insulting words and simply observed their uncivil behavior, from his appearance it was clear that he was burning with anger and was thinking of retaliating with great vengeance. His bodily features became so much agitated that it was difficult for anyone to look at him. He laughed very loudly and said, "It is true that if a man becomes too much puffed up because of his family, opulence, beauty, and material advancement, he no longer wants a peaceful life, but becomes belligerent towards all others. It is useless to give such a person good instruction for gentle behavior and a peaceful life. On the contrary, one should search out the ways and means to punish him. Generally, due to material opulence, a man becomes exactly like an animal. To give an animal peaceful instructions is useless, and the only means is argumentum ad baculum. In other words, the only means to keep animals in order is a stick. Interesting. Prabhupada uses Latin because he studied. He said, actually, I'm a Scotsman because I studied at the Scottish Rites College. He knew the classics also of the West. Somebody else? Yeah, just see.
Just see how impudent are the members of the Kuru dynasty. I wanted to make a peaceful settlement despite the anger of all the other members of the Yadu dynasty, including Lord Krishna himself. They were preparing to attack the whole kingdom of the Kuru dynasty, but I pacified them and took the trouble to come here to settle the affair without any fighting. Yet these rascals behaved like this. It is clear that they do not want a peaceful settlement, for they are factually warmongers. With great pride, they have repeatedly insulted me by calling the Yadu dynasty ill names.
The head of the Bhojas, Vrishnis, Andakas, and Yadavas to be the leader of a small phalanx? Your conclusion is wonderful. You do not care for King Ugrasen, whose order is obeyed even by King Indra. Consider the exalted position of the Yadu dynasty. They have forcibly used both the assembly house and the Parijat tree of the heavenly planets, and still you think that they cannot order you? Don't you even think that Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, can sit on the exalted royal throne and command everyone? All right, if your thinking is like that, you deserve to be taught a very good lesson.
You have thought wisely was that the royal insignias like the whisk, fan, white umbrella, royal throne, and other princely paraphernalia nor be used by the Yadu dynasty. Does this mean that even Lord Krishna, the Lord of whole creation, and the husband of the goddess of fortune, cannot use this royal paraphernalia? The dust of Krishna's lotus feet is worshipped by all the great demigods. The Ganges water inundates the whole world, and since it emanates from his lotus feet, its banks have turned into great places of pilgrimage. The principal deities of all planets engage in his service and consider themselves most fortunate to take the dust of the lotus feet of Krishna on their helmets. Great demigods like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and even the gods of fortune and I are simply plenary parts of his spiritual entity. And still you think that it is not fit to use the royal insignia or even sit on the royal throne. Alas, how regrettable is it that these fools consider us, the members of the Yadu dynasty, to be like the shoes and themselves like helmets. It's clear now that these leaders of the Kuru dynasty have become mad over their worldly possessions and opulence. Every statement they made was full of crazy proposals. I should immediately take them to talks and bring them to their senses. If I do not take steps against them, it will be improper on my part. Therefore, on this very day, I shall rid the whole world of any trace of the Kuru dynasty. I shall finish them off immediately.
Is that Balaram still speaking?
Yes. Which paragraph? Which paragraph? Starting from?
While talking. Maybe we'll just keep it going till he finds his place. Because we don't want the flow to stop for drum.
While talking like this, Lord Balaram seemed so furious that he looked as if he could burn the whole cosmic creation to ashes. He stood up steadily and taking his plough in his hand, began striking the earth with it, separating the whole city of Hastinapur from the earth. And then he began to drag the city toward the flowing water of the river Ganges. This caused a great tremor throughout Hastinapur, as if there had been an earthquake, and it seemed that the whole city would be dismantled.
When all the members of the Kuru dynasty saw that their city was about to fall into the water of the Ganges, and when they heard their citizens howling in great anxiety, they immediately came to their senses and understood what was happening. Thus, without waiting another second, they brought forward their daughter Lakshmana. They also brought Samba, who had forcibly tried to take her away, keeping him in the forefront with Lakshmana at his back. All the members of the Kuru dynasty appeared before Lord Balram with folded hands, just to beg the pardon of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, using good sense, they said, O Lord Balrama, reservoir or of all pleasures, you are the maintainer and support of the entire cosmic situation. Unfortunately, we were all unaware of your inconceivable potencies. Dear Lord, please consider us most foolish. Our intelligence was bewildered and not in order. Therefore, we have come before you to beg your pardon.
Please excuse us. You are the original creator, sustainer, and the annihilator of the whole cosmic manifestation, and still your position is always transcendental. O all-powerful Lord, great sages speak about you. You are the original puppeteer, and everything in the world is just like your toys. O Unlimited One, you have a hold on everything, and like child's play, you hold all the planetary systems on your head. When the time for dissolution comes, you close up the whole cosmic manifestation within yourself. At that time, nothing remains but yourself, lying in the causal ocean as Mahavishnu. Our dear Lord, you have appeared on this earth in your transcendental body just for the maintenance of this cosmic situation. You are above all anger, envy, and enmity. Whatever you do, even in the form of chastisement, is auspicious for the whole material existence. We are offering our respectful obeisances unto you, because you are the imperishable Supreme Personality of Godhead, the reservoir of all opulences and potencies. O Creator of innumerable universes, let us fall down and offer you our respectful obeisances again and again.
We are now completely surrendered unto you. Please, therefore, be merciful upon us and give us your protection. When the prominent members of the Kuru dynasty, from grandfather Bhishma Deva to Arjuna and Duryodhana had offered their respectful prayers in that way. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Balrama, immediately became softened and assured them that there was no cause for fear and that they need not worry. For the most part, it was the practice of the Kshatriya kings to encourage some kind of fighting between the parties of the brick and bridge room before the marriage. When Samba forcibly took away Lakshmana, the elder members of the Kuru dynasty were pleased to see that he was actually the suitable match for her. In order to see his personal strength, however, they fought with him and without respect for the regulations of fighting. They all arrested him. When the Yadu dynasty decided to release Samba from the confinement of the Kurus, Lord Balrama came personally to settle the matter. And as a powerful Kshatriya, he ordered them to free Samba immediately.
The Kauravas were superficially insulted by this order, so they challenged Lord Balaram's power. They simply wanted to see him exhibit his inconceivable strength. Thus, with great pleasure, they handed over their daughter to Samba, and the whole matter was settled. Duryodhana, being affectionate toward his daughter Lakshmana, had her married to Samba in great pomp. For her dowry, he first gave 1,200 elephants, each at least 60 years old. Then he gave 10,000 nice horses, 6,000 chariots, dazzling just like the sunshine, and 1,000 maidservants decorated with golden ornaments. Lord Balaram, the most prominent member of the Yadu dynasty, acted as guardian of the bridegroom, Samba, and very pleasingly accepted the dowry. Balaram was very satisfied after his great reception from the side of the Kurus, and accompanied by the newly married couple, he started toward his capital city of Dwarka.
Lord Balaram triumphantly reached Dwarka, where he met with many citizens who were all his devotees and friends. When they all assembled, Lord Balaram narrated the whole story of the marriage, and they were astonished to hear how Balaram had made the city of Hastinapur tremble. It is confirmed by Sukadev Goswami that in those days, the river flowing through the city of Hastinapur, present-day New Delhi, was known as the Ganges, although today it is called the Yamuna. From authorities like Jiva Goswami, it is confirmed that the Ganges and the Yamuna are the same river flowing in different courses. The part of the Ganges which flows through Hastinapur to the area of Vrindavan is called Yamuna because it is sanctified by the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna. The part of Hastinapur which slopes toward the Yamuna becomes inundated during the rainy season and reminds everyone of Lord Balaram's threatening to cast the city into the Ganges. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 68th chapter of Krishna, Marriage of Samba.
So we'd like to turn over the mic now to His Grace Abhiram Prabhu. We have the great privilege today of hearing from Srila Prabhupada's senior devotee, Abhiram, who was Prabhupada's nurse for many years and took care of Prabhupada right here in this sacred room. So we give the mic to Abhiram.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So we are assembled in a most wonderful place, auspicious place. This was Srila Prabhupada's residence in Vrindavan, and so many wonderful activities. Every activity with Srila Prabhupada was wonderful, just like we read about Lord Krishna. So who are those personalities which are interacting with the Lord in the spiritual world? Who are those amazing persons that entertain him? Just like even Dvita Gorilla was drawn out of the demons just to entertain the Lord, just to have fun. You see, when we're in Vrindavan, we're reminded often of Dvita Gorilla when we walk on the street, and you see the many little tiny Dvita Gorillas that are threatening to take our bags and make obscene gestures at us and threaten us. You see those? That's why it's not because I can't walk, it's because of the Dvita Gorillas. But in this place, Srila Prabhupada displayed that he himself was always within these pastimes of the Lord. Many moments I observed that Srila Prabhupada was simultaneously in that spiritual world having wonderful, playful pastimes with Krishna, and at the same time, he was attending to us. Just like a father or a grandfather, he may have big responsibilities in the world, and part of his brain is always thinking of those responsibilities. Maybe he's the president of the United States. But when he's with his children, they don't know that. Still he's thinking, oh, this is going on, this is going on. It's one other program running in his brain. And the other program, he's there with the child. So Srila Prabhupada, in the same way, was here with us. Like children, we couldn't understand how many wonderful things were going on within him. Right? But because he was a divine personality, he had lifted his consciousness, or in fact never descended his consciousness. Consciousness was in a place that had multiple dimensions. There were so many dimensions to Srila Prabhupada that each and every one of us were being attended very personally. Even you, and even you. You may not know this, but Srila Prabhupada knew that each one of you were coming. So like a wonderful grandfather, in the daytime, he worked one job, and in the night, he worked a second job. Let me explain. So in the day, he met with us, he managed, he had darshans, he spoke in the class, he answered letters. He was doing that in our generation. But at night, when we went to sleep, he went for his second job, which is to write love letters to every one of you in his Bhakti-Vedanta purports, because he knew you were coming. No, this is a fact. He knew you were coming. He had that vision, because he was, in fact, look, if we don't accept this, then we should just go home to mother and say, you were right, it was a crazy idea, I should have never joined that movement. We must accept that as the principle, that spiritual master is in that dimension, that he's actually receiving instruction from the divine person himself, Chaitya Guru. And Chaitya Guru already knows you. He's known you all along. He never left you, in fact. And so, the dear friend, the playful boy in Vrindavan takes some time out to show love and compassion to us, try to pull us back in to that eternal world. So it sounds a little fantastic to hear these stories in Krishna book, but that's because we're hearing them in the brain. So this brain, suppose you're all a little younger than me, but I remember when computers first came out. And what was the first KB? I think, was it KB? What was the first number? There was 56, 64 kVA. Now you can't imagine, in one key of your phone, there's more than 64 kVA, in just one button on your phone. But in those days we thought, my God, We can master the universe with this little machine. But it was very limited. The programs were ridiculous. You could hardly do anything on them. So similarly, our brain is like that. It's really a limited machine. Now the news just came out that there's AI has come out. You must have maybe heard this news. So a program has come out for AI, which is supposed to be so much faster than the human brain, so much more capacity, able to reach in and grab all types of information and manipulate it and spit it back out in a second or two or three. It's already embarrassing the human brain. In 5 years, the human brain will be stand very much ashamed in the corner, because computing capacity will go far beyond. Because in fact, it's not such a great machine. And when you feed information to this machine, how are you feeding information? Through the eyes, through the ears, through the nose, through the touch, with imagination, with reading and hearing from others. But the eyes are not seeing even 1% of the light spectrum in this room. What to speak of the ears? Do you know how many cell phone signals are running through this room right now? Any person in Vrindavan, Mathura, even India, can come in this room right now and receive their cell phone signal, isn't it? And you can't hear it. You can't hear it unless you get their special little receiving unit. So what is the use of this hearing? There's so much going on, you can't hear it. And that's what's informing this already imperfect, tiny little old-fashioned laptop sitting on top of our shoulders. Practically, we're deaf and dumb. We're blind, deaf and dumb. Practically. That's a fact. Otherwise, look at the mess in the world. If we were so smart, what the hell are you talking about? Look at the world. It looks like a train wreck, doesn't it? You go around, the world looks like it. Some train just came off the tracks and the wheels are upside down and the dust is, and people are still bleeding and falling all over. It looks like a fresh train wreck. Where are the smart people? I don't see them. So, with this imperfect information, we listen to the stories of the divine world with a very limited facility, and we try to match it up, evaluate it, decide if it makes sense to us, and all of that just becomes an interference. So when we are so fortunate to meet a personality, and all of you are meeting that personality of Srila Prabhupada, don't underestimate your relationship with Srila Prabhupada. Because in fact, there would be no potency in this movement, none whatsoever. Not 1 ounce of potency if it wasn't connected to Srila Prabhupada. All that potency is coming through him. Okay, so I'm being directed to talk about time. So there was a little bit, as Mahadev is very kind to me, maybe a little bit of exaggeration in that I wasn't many years his nurse, because he didn't need a nurse, and he was a terrible patient, that I can tell you. He was the best spiritual master one could ever dream of, but he was not a good patient because he had no patience for the body. He would hardly take his medicine, he would hardly slow himself down, he would hardly take any rest. He was always like a, charging lion. So yes, in 1975, I had already been temple president in 3 different temples. Srila Prabhupada had interacted with me quite a bit. In fact, the last temple in Miami, I bought a land. Directly, Srila Prabhupada gave me the money. I was speaking with him, telling him about it, and he said, well, how much do you need? And I said, well, I need another $75,000. He turned to Rameshwar, he said, give him immediately. And Rameshwar went, just give him immediately. So we bought that temple. So when I came to a point, I had 100 devotees, 120 devotees. We were top 2 or 3 in the world in book distribution, always, every month. Even Radha Damodar, sometimes we were beating Radha Damodar back and forth. And that's where I became good friends with Tamal Krishna Goswami, because he was a very competitive person. And he wanted to see who is this upstart who's challenging Radha Damodar. So anyway. it came to a point where I realized that, I didn't join this movement to be in an institution. I joined this movement only for one purpose, and that was to be with him. The institution for me was just a burden, but that was what he was doing, so I helped. But that was never my world. The world was him. So at some point I thought, okay, temple's going fine, $50,000 a month is coming in, everything's rolling along. I'm resigning. And I made my resignation, and everybody was shocked. What, are you crazy? Everything's going so good. If it's going so good, carry on. I'm going to be with Prabhupada. He's always in India now, and I'm going to be with him. So I went off to the Mayapur festival, and Gargamuni Prabhu, he was so clever. He was the GBC at that time. And I had no intentions of being in management again. I said, I'm finished with it. I don't need this business. I just want to be with Prabhupada, right? And I'll study and chant. So Gargamuni, though, he was managing Calcutta, the whole region. He was GBC, and one other sannyasi who you wouldn't know, but he was a wonderful sannyasi, Sridhar Swami. He's now deceased. He was the temple president. They were close friends, and Sridhar Swami wanted out of Calcutta like anything. It was a really tough assignment in those days. No water in the building. We took our bath in the lake in front. It was, the rats would eat our toes at night. It was a rough assignment. Probably the roughest assignment going at the time. So Gargamuni went up to Prabhupada without telling me. And he goes, Srila Prabhupada, we need a temple president for Calcutta, and Abhiram is here looking for work. And Prabhupada simply said, he can do. That's all he said, he can do. Meaning, okay, he can be on the list, right? So Gargamuni comes running down, Abhiram, Srila Prabhupada wants you to be temple president of Calcutta. He does? Yeah, he said. Oh, he does? Okay, well, all right. He said, come on, let's go. So we jumped in his car immediately. We drove from Mayapur to Calcutta. Sridhar Swami was there with a ring of those big old-fashioned keys, they called skeleton keys. And he had the bank assignments ready. Within half an hour, he was going out the door with Gargamuni, and I couldn't understand. I had the keys, I have the bank assignments, I'm sitting in Calcutta, and they're laughing. What are they laughing about? I don't know, they're like chuckling, running out the door. So, but that year, and actually forever I'm grateful to Gargamuni for his mischief. Huh? That year, Srila Prabhupada spent so much time in Calcutta, and it was just a wonderful occasion. Eventually, we started traveling with him. My wife, Shruti Rupa, became his cook, and so we were there mostly 76, 77. We were more or less always with him, but as a TP. I had my TP badge, so okay, let me in. And but eventually, yes, he asked me when he was very ill in 77, I came to see, and he just saw me in Darshan, and he told Tamal Krishna, he said, tell Abhiram that, we need help, he can stay with me. So I stayed in those months, and took him to London, was with him in London, brought him back to Bombay, from Bombay, brought him back here. So we're back here. There's many things that happen. But in these rooms, Srila Prabhupada was clearly in the spiritual world. And he had told me all along in these last months that he wanted to, whatever he used to say, whatever happens, it must be glorious. Meaning he was the Acharya. He was setting an example for all of us in life and in death. And he used to also say, whatever happens, I would be attending him, cleaning him, carrying him in my arms, sleeping next to him. He told me, never leave my side day or night. So I was with him all the time, literally with him. Hold his hand at night so he could just wake me. And he said, whatever happens, no tubes or pipes. Do you understand? No tubes or pipes. Means, in the hospital with, begging for life, holding on. He was never reluctant to go. In fact, rather, it was fine for him. The only reason he stayed on for another 6 months from when he got ill was because we kept begging him. Literally, we were begging and begging him, please stay with us. And okay, he was controlled by that love. He was controlled by that love. And that was the clear experience, that there was no concern about death. I knew he was at times in great pain. I never heard him complain, ever. I, in fact, never saw him sleep. Yeah, that's something that's a little hard to digest. He had conquered sleep, and I'll give you an example. So sometimes this bed, this is now facing south, which was Prabhupada's generally. There may be some debate amongst different servants of Prabhupada, but it was either south or east, and from my experience in my time, he preferred south. But there was a time when this bed was facing east. And I was here, taking care of him at night, and many times in the night, he would exhibit transcendental feelings when no one was around. So I would be sitting sometimes on the floor, he would be lying in the bed, and I would be silently chanting japa. So he would lie down and just close his eyes like this. I never saw his jaw slack. I never saw him wake up and, mystery, where am I, what's going on, never. When he would open his eyes, it was as if he had just rested. He would just open them, and they were immediately focused on you. And he would immediately start talking. I never saw him actually fall asleep. Yes, he rested, right? And sometimes, because he was quite bored, he was, as I said, he was a charging lion. He wanted to be in the field preaching. He didn't like being sick. He just didn't like it. So he would get bored. He has, brilliant intellect and a very active person, but the body was not cooperating. So sometimes he would tease or joke or talk about his childhood or India or just different subjects. And sometimes I would tease back just to give him a little entertainment and take some risks, to entertain him. As an example, once I said, Srila Prabhupada, because he used to say, I'm only a bag of bones. He used to humiliate his own body like that. It's just a bag of bones. What's the use? So one day I said, Srila Prabhupada, you are just like Hiranyakashipu. No, he wasn't offended. He knew there was a joke here, but he somehow got a little ahead of him, and he couldn't quite think what was the joke. I said, because you're only living in your bones. And he went like a scorekeeper, went, yes. Like score one. So he would joke like that. And once I came up to this, actually it was this desk, it was early on, he was still sitting. Yeah, but he didn't look so healthy like that. That must have been 73, 74. So,
was he down here 73, 74?
huh?
Was he living down here because he was upstairs?
Yes. This must have been just after the opening, probably within the year after the opening, yeah. So,
75, then was after the opening.
maybe, but yeah, maybe 70. He was still quite robust in 75. He didn't show any signs of ill health till actually February of 77. Right? That was supposed to be the day he was going to come. I had built the first householder house at Mayapur, that little 3-story house at the Goshala. I built that. And the top floor was for my wife. She was going to stay. I was going to be temple president in Calcutta and come back and forth. She liked to be in Mayapur. And so that day, or that was the day Prabhupada was supposed to come and open the house, do the fire, the homa, and open the house. But that was the day he couldn't come because he was ill. So that was the last day he got up. That day, it was in February at Gaur Purnima festival. Once I was here, I was about to say, and I came, I had gone out for something and I came rushing back in to see if he needed anything, but I spoke too formally the English, he was very precise in English. I learned crawling on the ground and with my mother talking funny gibberish in my face, informally. But he learned talk very proper English, So I came in and I said, Srila Prabhupada, do you have any desire? Which was a stupid way to say it. I should have simply said, would you like a glass of water? Can I do something, But I said, Srila Prabhupada, do you have any desire? And he caught it, He said, I have all desires. But then he pointed to his seat, but what can I do? This old body. So like this, he was always jovial. Even though wasting away, heading towards death, he never showed any moroseness or concern but he showed a lot of concern for us. A lot of concern for us. That was his, primary meditation, how they will go on, who will take care, prayers for us constantly, writing as best he could, pushing. I was there the first day after he'd stopped translating for about 3 or 4 months. Actually more than that, it was about 5 months. And one day he said, bring Pradumna, I'll start translating. He was laying in this bed. And I actually, although Jayadvaita Swami held the microphone many of the days, and Tamal Krishna Goswami also, but I happened to be the first one to hold the mic that day. Who is that, Jayadvaita Swami? Yeah, he was there quite a bit. In the last tour when we came back to
Was the bed
here.
closer this way? Was the bed closer this way?
The bed was not much. The bed was a little more this way. I remember.
This desk was here? This desk was here?
Oh yeah, it was all here.
When you were holding the mic and translating, I was sitting on one of the windows here. And I could see the bed, so I can't remember if it was this window or that window. That's what
I'm not sure, but I can tell you the distance in this story. So in the last few months, after we had tried to had gone to London, we were trying to go to America, but we had to come back. We came back. Akinchana Krishna Baba. Akinchana Krishna Das was one of Prabhupada's godbrothers. He was a Babaji. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was very fond of his kirtans. Everybody loved his kirtans. He was just the most pure-hearted, jolly, beautiful singing Bengali style kirtan. Just a lovely, lovely, beautiful soul. And Prabhupada loved him also very much. Everyone loved him. So I was sitting on the side of the bed massaging Prabhupada's arm, and I usually was massaging 4 hours at least, or 5 hours in a day, because he couldn't move, so there was no circulation. So I was constantly trying to keep the circulation going. And I was sitting there, and Prabhupada was more in the middle, and Kinchana Krishna Das Babaji was sitting near his knees and feet on that side. And on the floor was Narayan Maharaj. Just because he was junior, he was not Prabhupada's godbrother, he was nephew. But Prabhupada had a great affection for him. They had a very nice, warm relationship. So it was a Kinchana Baba who was now rubbing Prabhupada's leg. And Srila Prabhupada suddenly, he got very quiet, sad, and he said, "Please forgive me. Please forgive me. I have offended my godbrothers. Please forgive me." And Kinchana Krishna Das was rubbed more vigorously and said, No, Swami Maharaj, you were preaching, you were pushing on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. You had to speak like this. And Prabhupada again said, No, please forgive me. So that was a very beautiful moment to demonstrate how he was. Very soft-hearted, ready to, in those times also, his emotions would spill out. He couldn't hold them in. When he was in younger years, mostly you see the videos and such, he was the acharya, right? And you wouldn't imagine that he could, although sometimes he did break out in a tearful mood. But in these times, it was very common. Once I was massaging him in London, on the floor of the manor, his bedroom there, Upendra Prabhu was on one end, I was on the other. It means Prabhupada was sitting and I was on his back, and Upendra was on his feet. And we had been waiting for confirmation that Prabhupada could go to the USA because there was some problem with his visa. I wasn't sure. And we knew if we flew all that way, it was so much strain on him, which could alone kill him. And then they turned him back. It would be extremely dangerous for him. And what to speak of embarrassing and unpleasant, right? So we had Balavanta Prabhu and some others who had some government contacts trying to sort it out and make sure that Prabhupada would be treated properly, right? So somehow the news came and Tamal Krishna Goswami came running in the room. Srila Prabhupada, we got the news. The visa is clear. America is ready to greet you. And Prabhupada again, he broke out. He said, America, I am so much grateful. You have given me everything, men, money. I am so grateful. I can never forget. Just like that. Normal thing for him in those times. So appreciating. Everything he appreciated. And he appreciated every one of you. Every one of you. And some people think, oh, you were lucky you were there. No. I'm just a mailman. It was all these pastimes were done for you. And maybe if I tell the story truthfully, that you'll give me blessings, and then maybe I will become a devotee someday and please him. Is there some particular area you'd like me to talk about? Because I've kind of rambled here.
Would anybody like to ask Abhiram something about Srila Prabhupada? I'm curious about when he was lying here on the bed in this last time here. Was this in the last month? November? October, November? Because it seems like, the miracle is that he's practically bones and he's speaking, as we know that last chapter,
I'm sure that there are records that are, and my diary is not with me, but I also kept a diary which I haven't published, but my impression is that it was September, October, and that near the end he also stopped again. And I'll mention something that happened in this time. He said to me once, when my father was like this, he was lying down. Remember, he had wasted away to maybe 80 pounds. Yeah, I could pick him up like a 9-year-old child. And I always picked him up. I always would hold him like this or change his cloth. Every day we put fresh silks twice a day, gold buttons. He was the world acharya, so we kept him looking very nice and bathed him constantly, turned him constantly. But so he said to me when my father was like this, he refused food until he expired. I will also do this. So many stories run around about how he left. Like somebody could come and just push him out the door. Could Prahlad Maharaj be killed? Could Prahlad Maharaj be killed? Is Prabhupada something less? Could not be killed. And he said, I will refuse food until, I said, just like this I will do. And he did. In the end, he stopped taking food, and I noted it because I was always measuring everything that went in, everything that came out. I was constantly watching his vital signs, and I knew that this was it. That he had made a decision, and he wasn't going to yield on it. But something else?
Were you here when Bhishma arrived?
I must have been.
So I was here. I was here when he came from Bombay. I came.
Okay.
So I was here. It was September. 77. 77, and I was here until he left. And one day, Pishima arrived.
Near the beginning of that time or near the end?
It was, it had been, it was a few weeks before she came. So he'd already been here. And I got to, he was ready to go to New York, and I was in New York. And I came, Guru went to call him, and he said he wasn't coming. So I went to, he was leaving London, going to Bombay, so I went to Bombay. I was there 3 weeks. It was already September. Then I came here when he came. And Pishima came a few weeks later. And
I must have been here, but she was always a factor, so I didn't remember her coming or leaving. She was always around, you know, so I can't.
He hadn't been eating, and she cooked for him. And I was waiting outside to get remnants. There weren't any. And then he told her, he said, "Are you trying to poison me cooking with all this mustard oil?"
Yeah.
But
This was a constant rasa between, you know, the proper duty of brother and sister. They have to harass each other a little bit in love, you know? They have to cause some anxiety. So Prabhupada had this rasa with Pishima. Yeah. So when Shruti was cooking, she tells that same kind of story that Pishima would come in every day and grind on the, you know, the stone? It's called silbata in Bengal, it's called silbata. Huh? So Shruti, to this day, she doesn't travel without her silbata, the same silbata from that time. Yeah, with the big stone and everything. So Pishima would come in and grind the mustard seeds and make a paste and then make shukta. Shukta, which is Prabhupada adored shukta. Portal, posta, all those different things he loved. So one day Prabhupada said to Shruti, "Don't let her in the kitchen. She's trying to kill me." So give that to the conspiracy theorists, you know. Well, also Pishima was trying to kill him. But this is how a brother talks about his sister, isn't it? It's a type of love. So he said, "Don't let her in the kitchen. She's trying to kill me with this mustard oil." And Shruti thought, "Oh God, how am I going to do this one?" You know, Pishima will just jump off the building or hang herself or something, because she was so much in love with Prabhupada, you know, it's her big brother. So she came and Shruti disobeyed Prabhupada. She couldn't lock her out of the kitchen. And she came in and she grabbed her mustard and got the sabata, and Shruti told no. Prabhupada said no mustard. And Pishima was looking shocked, almost ready to cry. What? She was saying. And Shruti relented. She said, okay. She gave her one seed and put it on the silbata. And both of them started laughing. And Pishima ground that seed. She ground that seed and took it with her little finger and put it in the shakta. Huh? Yeah. So he was a person full of dynamic characteristics, all kinds of characteristics. He loved to tease children, loved to get them all upset, just like many people love to tease children. It's a good fun, no? But he was so intelligent. I remember sitting here with Prabhupada. I was sitting actually in front of him, and there were some children outside. They were foreign children, and they were making a big ruckus, and one of them was really sounding very nasty, but he was speaking in French. Now, Prabhupada never studied French, but he immediately said, he's speaking bad words. He said, and I tried to make an excuse. I said, well, Srila Prabhupada, the mothers are busy with the service. Prabhupada said, they are not mothers. They are forced mothers. Whoa. I thought, whoa. Whoops. So, you know, he wasn't also just the guru holding the rose, you know, with the big smile and hoping that a lot of people would come and bring money. He never hesitated to say what was what. He never hesitated. But somehow it was all so happy to hear, so wonderful to hear, because we knew that each critique was filled with love and compassion, just like a grandmother or a grandfather will guide you with love, right? Even sometimes you might have a grumpy grandmother, but you know she's actually trying to guide you correctly. Well, Prabhupada wasn't grumpy, but he could be. It was pretty intense. One time Shruti came in, I'm stealing Shruti's thunder here, but wonderful story to illuminate this point. She was cooking and Prabhupada's lunch had to be exactly at a moment. There wasn't any wiggle room. Now, sometimes, like when we were staying at Bhubaneswar with him, we had two chulas. Chula is that bucket which lined with mud, and you put the coal and you cook on it. So she was outside cooking 7 or 8 courses. Now, all of those courses, the breads, the sabji, the rice, the dal, everything had to come and be delivered to Prabhupada at exactly a certain moment, and all hot on only 2 chulas, 8 dishes. How do you do that? So she was literally moving like this. All in those days, they had the clips, in the pots. You didn't have handles, and so she's clipping and moving and moving. And it was really intense coming right up to that moment. It was time to serve Prabhupada. I think it was 1 o'clock. And the chula spits out embers, red hot, little sparks. And the timing was so intense that she was standing on a spark. Now, this is a lady who comes from extremely, probably the wealthiest man in Florida at the time. Comes from an extremely pampered childhood, right? He was a senator, so many things. Presidents were in her living room all the time. And she's standing on a hot coal, and she didn't have time to move her foot. She still has a small hole in her foot from that. And she holds it with the greatest affection, right? But she was doing like this, right? And one time she came in and put the plate down. She was 2 minutes late. 2 minutes late. Prabhupada looked and said, "You are 2 years late." Yeah. It wasn't, all hee ha ha. It was pretty intense. And you were out there distributing books, That wasn't a cakewalk. That was incredible austerity. Incredible austerity. And that's how this movement was founded. By devotees risking their lives. Literally risking their lives. I had Brahmachari killed out on my Sankirtan party by a firebomb was thrown on him, and he burned to death. Didn't scream, didn't cry. His skin was bubbling after we extinguished it. And he just said, "I think you should take me to hospital." And he was Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. And we took him to the hospital. Before we got there, he was dead. Just one of those amazing persons, Brajajan. He was initiated as Brajajan. I had gotten him initiated, joined in my temple. And he was like an angel. From the moment he entered the temple, he only chanted. He was one of those chanters, where they shuffle their feet and stand against the wall so it's echoing back on them. And he went like that. So literally risking their lives. Right? What to speak of abandoning all their opportunities, and some people came from very privileged places. They had an amazing life ahead of them, but in a second, right? In a second, when they saw Srila Prabhupada, they gave everything. That was how he was. How does somebody do that? Were they hypnotized? And if they were hypnotized, why are they still hypnotized? What kind of hypnosis is that? Huh? That after now 50 years, he's gone 40 years. He can't keep doing, the hypnotic thing. And still they're hypnotized. What is it? But they're functioning in the world perfectly. They're intelligent. They're analytical. It's not hypnosis. These are not the symptoms of hypnosis or brainwashing. These are the symptoms of love. Only love has that power, right? It can move mountains. And that's what Srila Prabhupada did. He moved mountains with his love. And if you embrace his lotus feet, he'll move all the mountains in your way, in your path. He'll just move them aside. I never know when to stop or go on. You have to guide me. Prabhu?
Yes, this is a camera location.
Prabhu, I just wanted to know, because I can understand from your the expression you are making and the things you went through, during Prabhupada's presence. So I'm just trying to ask, what were the initial moment and reaction when Prabhupada passed away? I mean, he just left this world. So how was the days? How was the time when you experienced this thing, and how you went through all this?
So that is a funny question for me, because I wasn't there. It's a funny characteristic of me. My mother always said I had a one track, like a train, one track. I went in one direction. So my direction was Prabhupada has to live. That was it. Nothing could get in the way. Give you an example. Prabhupada wanted to go to America. It was his last wish to go he wanted to do Govardhan also, but he wanted to go to America. And his passport had expired and his green card had expired, and he's lying in the bed here. Right? How do you do that? I'll just give you an example. I was not a special devotee. It was normal at this time, what we did. So Prabhupada said, I need a passport. Okay. I took his old passports. There were 3 sewn together. I went to Delhi. I started going in the Parliament House, that round building. Now, I'm a white guy who had already been accused. They were all saying we were CIA. India was very afraid in that time, in Indira's time. And there was CIA everywhere, and they were trying to manipulate India. And I'm going around in the Parliament House. I had no business being in there, knocking on parliamentarians' door, finding one who was sympathetic, getting a special letter, and I got a passport for Srila Prabhupada. Right? So I come back, and he gave me his 3 last passports. I have those. I gave to Shruti. And that was his last passport. Okay, now he has no visa. He has no green card. It had expired because he hadn't traveled. So again, Tamal said, Abhiram, you gotta go. So I said, okay. So I went to Delhi. I went to the US Consul. So in the structure of an embassy, the ambassador is political, diplomatic. It has nothing to do with you or me, right? But under the ambassador comes the consul general, who is involved with visas and sorts of things. So there was a lady who was all India consul general at that time. So I waited, and I finally was taken to see her. And I'm sitting, and I started explaining that I want a visa for Prabhupada. And she was looking more and more mystified. She was saying, wait a minute. You're an American, he's an Indian, and you're coming to get a visa for him? She said, where is he? I said, well, you see, he's not very well. He can't come. Oh, that answers everything. Stamp, reject. If he's too sick to come, not to come, he's too sick to go to America, reject. So I thought, oh no, that is not going to be. And Balavanta was with me at this time. So I knew that the council, I had been TP of Calcutta, and I knew the council there, who was theoretically underneath her, I could understand he was reporting to the CIA, because my father-in-law, my wife's father, was Secret Service and a senator. And I knew a little bit of these things. So, but I knew he kept questioning me when I would visit him about very funny things. What did you see troop movements on your way to Mayapur, this, that? So I picked up the phone, I called Mr. McNeil. Hello, Mr. McNeil, it's Abhiram. Oh, hello, Abhiram. Hare Krishna. He said, hey, okay, yeah, Hare Krishna, okay. Huh? Yeah. So I said, so Prabhupada, he knew everything about us. He was bored, silly in the Calcutta embassy. There was nothing to do. We just sit and watch his air conditioner, make a lot of noise, and drink Coca-Colas. He couldn't do anything else. So, he knew everything about us. And I said, so Prabhupada needs a visa. He said, okay, well, bring him in. I'll give him a visa. I said, well, it's a little more complicated than that. I said, you see, he's in Vrindavan. He said, oh, well, that's not my territory. So you have to take her to this lady. I said, well, it's still more complicated than that. I already went to this lady, and she's rejected. He says, why are you calling me? She's my boss. I said, Mr. McNeil, please forgive me. You know I'm a fanatic, and I will do anything. I said, both you and me know that she is not your real boss. And he said, what the hell are you trying, because he was CIA. And I said, I'm sorry, Mr. O'Neill, I don't mean to harm you, but I will. I'm sure the Indian press and the Indian government would love to know what you're really doing here in India. Oh my God, I cannot repeat the words that came on that telephone, but my ear was burning. The threats and the foul language, and Balavanta was saying, I can't believe you just threatened a CIA, you crazy. I said, I may be crazy, but Prabhupada's getting his visa. That's it. And he yelled and yelled, and I said, Mr. O'Neill, please forgive me. I don't mean anything bad. I'm forced to do this, and I'm getting on. There's an alliance flight from Delhi to Calcutta. It's going at 3 o'clock. I'm getting on that plane, and I'm coming. And he never agreed. He was still yelling at me. And I said, I'm sorry, sir. Don't be offended. I'm putting the phone down. And Balavanta and I, we got on the flight. And we went to Calcutta. Now we arrived, I must have been 5 or 5:30, 6 o'clock, something like that. And I knew O'Neill had nowhere to go. His wife wasn't there in Calcutta. She couldn't stand being there. It was a really tough place at that time. And he was there, I'm sure, sitting in it with his air conditioner, making bad noise and thinking very angry thoughts about me now. So I called from the airport. I said, Mr. O'Neill, I'm here. And the cursing had not stopped the whole time. I think while I was on the plane, he was still cursing. Because I said, O'Neill, please, I don't have a choice. I have to do this. Finally, he said, bring that blank passport here tomorrow, and I'll give you your blank visa, and you will never show your face to me again. I said, okay, sir, thank you very much. See you in the morning. And Balavanta said, whoa, I can't believe you did that. So he said, well, I came all the way from America to be with Prabhupada, so I'm taking the same flights going back now. I said, well, I don't think you should do that. That's not how we do things in India. So what are you talking about? I said, oh, Prabhupada used to say, don't change the horse in the middle of the river. So we started out together. We should finish. No, you know this kind of Indian way, right? It's a little bit of a mystical way, right? And especially India requires that you move in a mystical way. It's not like the West. Where it's very machine-like, tuck, 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 right? So he said, no, I don't think like that. I'm going. So he flew back, and I'm there. So he got to Delhi in the night. In the morning, he came here in this room, and Prabhupada was laying in the bed, up on his pillows on this bed, up a little bit. And Prabhupada saw him come in, and he said, oh, you have come. I said, yes, Prabhupada. We got your visa. And he said, where is Abhiram? Oh, he's getting the visa tomorrow. Prabhupada said, you have come without the visa? Well, yes, it's coming tomorrow. Oh, you have just brought me headache. And Prabhupada was heavy like that. Right? So then later in that day, I was able to put a lightning call through. In those days, we didn't have phones. You had to... It's called telegram. Huh? No, this was a lightning call. So you paid 7 times the normal rate.
They call it tar.
Okay, in those days they called to us lightning call, 7 times the rate. So I put it through to the phone, which was right there where that door is now. That was where the secretary's desk is, just out in the hall. And Tamal Krishna Goswami answered, I got the visa. This is how you talked in those days. The phone was very bad. He said, what? Repeat. I got the visa. He said, is it in your hand? It's in my hand. He said, sure, it's in my hand. Okay, I'm coming. Right? So Prabhupada came in and told Tamal came in and told Srila Prabhupada, Abhiram has the visa in his hand. And Prabhupada clapped. So he expected us to do these things. And that's how you, first of all, believe in Krishna. That miracles can happen. And that's, you hear the stories of Brahmananda and Gargamuni, and they went to Pakistan. They did so many amazing things. Of Shyamasundar did so many amazing things. It was all Krishna. And it was all the play of Krishna to show the greatness of his devotee, to demonstrate the greatness of his devotee, and to churn the hearts of all of us, to make our hearts, be softened. This is all the same as those pastimes we read about. And I keep referring here because that's a very special story that goes with that painting. And Prabhupada. But I won't tell that story here. No, it's much too intimate. But if you come on my deathbed, I might tell the story. People will say I'm. No.
We don't want you to die,
So. No, basically, Prabhupada made that painting come alive. I saw it come alive. Yeah. But that's a big story. I literally saw it come alive. It wasn't a painting anymore. It was a window.
What was she saying?
No, that's it. That's the end.
The way Prabhupada reacted when you said that Gisa is about to come, it will come tomorrow. The way he reacted, oh, you just gave me a headache. That reflects how much faith and how much conviction that he had in you, not just. He was pretty sure that.
I think it just reflected the standards that he expected. That's all. Balavantu was a great servant of Prabhupada, and still is to this day. In fact, today, Makar Sankranti, Balavantu is reciting, as he does every Makar Sankranti, the entire Bhishma, the prayers that Bhishma gave on his deathbed. Because today is the day Bhishma, goes. Yeah.
Today, I was in the temple in Atlanta, Balavanta, and the person I joined with, Balavanta and Balavi and Fred at the time and I were married at the same time, and he died this morning.
Oh.
And that's actually, it was very auspicious.
Oh.
And they say if you die on this day, you go back to the spiritual world.
Yeah. Lord, Grandfather Bhishma waited for this day.
Right. 6 months.
He could have, a long time he waited. Yeah. So everything in Prabhupada's world was wonderful. It wasn't mundane. It was always exciting. It was always an adventure. It was always full of happiness. And it's the word happiness is a cheap word. It's hard to say exactly what that feeling was. But happiness was just a small little crumb within that beautiful cake that came in experiencing Srila Prabhupada's presence. And every one of you, why are you here? Why are you here? It's not always easy, right? Because there's something in your heart which is being filled. And that's what Srila Prabhupada's bringing, is Krishna's love. Just like Mother Yasoda holds baby Krishna, so the devotees of Krishna, the charges also, they hold Krishna, they bring him to you. They bring him in their arms. And Krishna is beautified by their love, just like Lord Krishna is beautified by Mother Yasoda's embrace. And her smile upon his face. He's increased, his beauty is unlimited, but then it becomes more unlimited because of the interaction with the devotees. And so Srila Prabhupada's love for Krishna, it enhances. And at the same time, Krishna wants his devotees to be glorified. They mutually want to glorify each other. That's love. So Prabhupada's too eager to tell us all about Krishna in this wonderful Krishna book which we read. And Krishna is all so eager also to put Prabhupada in different circumstances to demonstrate his great devotion and beauty. Of course, beauty, you know, you've seen him in videos, how he moved and behaved and spoke, and it's mesmerizing. It's not, you know, in this world, beauty has sometimes a sexual annotation, you know, are they attractive for reproduction? But there's another kind of beauty. There's a very different kind of beauty. And when I first saw his photo, I didn't know who he was, but I knew that was the person I was born to serve because I had been waiting to see him all my life. I knew. I had that instinct, and I just saw his photo. Nobody said this is a guru. It was before the movement was known. There were only 7 temples in the world when I first heard of Prabhupada. And just to see his photo, I could see by his physiognomy that this was a person that was not in this world. This is a person that could not say anything untrue. This is a person that could do only good for me. And I immediately, literally, I never increased my dedication to Prabhupada 1% from that moment. It remained at 100%. It was never increased from there. Because there was nothing more to see, it was all there. It was in a pamphlet. There was 2 essays years ago, back in '69, called, it was the Krsna, the Reservoir of Pleasure, and Who Was Crazy, exactly right. It was sort of a black and white. There was no thick cover, it was just paper on the outside. Yeah, and then I remember I turned to read the first sentence, Krishna, the sound is transcendental. And to this day, I'm still trying to unpack the incredible, dynamic meanings of that simple sentence. It just keeps opening up and opening up. Krishna, 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 the sound is transcendental.
You were saying how you weren't there when Prabhupada actually left. You were going to come to the end of that. You were describing when you weren't here when Prabhupada actually left here and you were going to.
Well, it was, as I said, I'm kind of a lunatic. When I get locked onto something, I don't stop. And he said, don't leave my side day or night and take care, nurse me, right? So my assignment was to make him live. And sometimes I had to, like you kind of manage a child who won't take his medicine, you know, I had to do these things. It was a little difficult to emotionally do that, you know. But if I didn't, he wouldn't take his medicine. And, you know, he was, like I said, he was not a really good patient. He was the most wonderful creation of the Lord. But as a patient, he had no tolerance for that. And so I had to, you know, try to convince him, do this, do that. Finally, when he told me that I will stop taking food until I expire, and when he did stop taking food, I knew that he had made that decision. And it broke my heart. I just, for some reason, I like I said, I was on the one track, you have to live. And that was my duty, and I just couldn't change gears. So I came to him. At this time now, it was near the last few weeks, and there were so many senior devotees there, and some of them were really very experienced in dealing with Prabhupada also and taking care of him. And it wasn't just anybody could do it, because he had to be in the service, you had to be able to almost read his mind, because he wouldn't say a lot of things when he would just do like that, or he would do like that. What does that mean? And sometimes he would make a different sign for a different desire. And then he wanted water or do this or do that. And you had to read, that's what I mean, you had to literally read what he meant.
So you're saying he didn't make the same sign for...
Not always, no, it could change. He was dynamic. Yeah, you had to practically hear what he was saying. So, but there were some senior devotees that had come, and I came to Prabhupada and I said, Srila Prabhupada, it seems that, other senior devotees are here, and perhaps my service has come to an end. Perhaps I should serve you in other ways. He said, yes, I have no objection. He said, but be blessed. Those were his last words to me. Be blessed. He didn't say blessed. He said, be blessed. Yeah. So I left about 3 weeks before, and that's, another adventure after that. But Prabhu.
Still we experience that we are all together, just like in the front of.
Oh, okay. Here's a good story for that one. So Prabhupada was here. I was massaging him. He was sitting, this was before we went to London. He still wasn't so deteriorated. I mean, he was deteriorated, but he could still sit. And Brahmananda and Tamal Krishna were there. I think Upendra Prabhu was coming in and out, bringing water or doing, there was basically Tamal Krishna, Upendra, and myself were the party. And some of that time, Shruti traveled as the final cook. So Srila Prabhupada was talking about that I'm dying. He never hesitated to say. He said, I'm dying. And he said, na sojati, na kanchati. I have any lamentation or anxiety. Then he stopped. He said, no, actually, I have one lamentation. And Brahmananda, standing over there, said, because you didn't finish Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada? Prabhupada said, no, because I have not established Varnashram. He said, this is my anxiety. So that became very much the theme. He was becoming concerned. Now, realizing that he is, as he called it, dying, we say disappearing, he was concerned. How will the society run? He was not confident, I can tell you that. That's a true thing. He was not confident. He was becoming a little anxious, whether the senior devotees could carry it on properly. And so, all these other mechanisms for managing society. And I can say, he talked to me a lot about Varnashram over our life and about Indian culture. And I've thought about it, days and nights and, meditated on it and prayed about it. And the little bit I understand is that one thing that we really desperately need in this society is culture. We don't know what is real culture. I don't see it much. It's a bit of a rough kind of organization, culturally speaking. And you all have to do something to try to improve that. Now, the key essence of Vedic culture, you can see it in one gesture when the young person touches towards the feet of the elder. That one simple gesture explains the entire Vedic culture because it's a hierarchical culture. The Lord is at the top, then so many different forms of the Lord, then the Devtas, the elders, the ancestors, rishis, gurus, finally parents. And today it's become flat. Humanism has infected the world. Humanism means that humans are God. That's what humanism is. That's atheism. It's 100% atheism. You have to be philosophically sharp. Srila Prabhupada said, spiritual life is not for the unintelligent. You don't just stumble through with emotions or blindness. Each person is responsible. And this you must learn, or you will never have that humility, which Mahaprabhu talks about in Shishastakam, to allow you to hear the name. You will never hear the name if you don't develop humility. And the Lord will never invite you into his lovely pastimes if you're not as soft as melted butter, your heart. Because that's the nature of his friends and loves. Their hearts are melted butter. So the lack of humility is not an anartha. It's not a fault. It is the antithesis of bhakti. The antithesis of bhakti. That alone will waste all your time if you cannot develop that humility. And it comes in practice also, from touching the feet of the elders with real feeling and realizing that without elders, you cannot get the blessings. You may be very smart. You may read many books. You may become a big man in the organization. But you're nothing in the spiritual world. You're nothing in the spiritual world if you don't have a heart of melted butter that cries in separation and feels great humility in the presence of all others. All others. Srila Prabhupada, I bullied him in London to take a minor operation, because he had a small urinary tract blockage. And everyone was shocked. Nobody ever thought they would ever get him back in a hospital. But because he wanted to fly back to India, and I said, Srila Prabhupada, in your condition, you may expire on the airplane. And that's not what you told me you wanted. So then he agreed. Okay, so we took him. Anyway, the next day after that was a minor surgery. It was a big drama. The whole story is an incredible drama, but I'll leave that for another day. But the next day, now the person who operated on him, and again, I had convinced him to do it. I was the person with the golden tongue who would, Americans, we French are very good with many things. Italians are very good. Indians are very many things. Americans are good with bullshit. That's what we're very good, marketing bullshit. That's the specialty of Americans. So I have that background. So I was always sent on these assignments to sort of mesmerize the person, until he was like, oh, okay, where do I sign? So this doctor, he was a head surgeon, beautiful man. He was a 6'4" Scotsman, probably almost 70 years old, at the pinnacle of his career. He had been an army sergeant. He'd held his boys in his arms, and they died in his arms. He was a man's man. He had that beautiful Scottish brogue like Sean Connery, that gorgeous Scottish brogue, and tall and lean, and what a man he was, just very noble. And he had come in and analyzed Prabhupada. He was the head of the whole hospital. He came to analyze Prabhupada, and he said, well, okay, we have to do some operation. We have to put the tubes in the pipes, so to speak. And Guru Kripa was there, always protecting Prabhupada. And he said, no, you're not doing that to Guru. You're not putting all two in them. He said, okay. He left the room. And then Prabhupada said, okay, let's go. I said, Srila Prabhupada, we haven't got this finished yet. Okay. So Tamal said, Aviram, you got to go talk to this doctor. So I went out, walked down the hall. He was sitting in some side room doing his reports. Doctors have a lot of reports to do. And I said, I forget, I have it written in my diary. He was mixed something, Scottish man, right? So I said, Dr. So-and-so, can I speak to you? Yeah, he came out. I said, so what's your analysis? He said, well, he said, what I observe is that he had a congenital, the urinary tract was a little small. And now he has diabetes, and there's swelling. And the swelling is constricting further. And this has been going on for years. And he has to push to pass water. And that push is causing back pressure on his kidneys. And the kidneys are becoming damaged, renal damage. And the renal damage means there's an increase of uric acid in the body. And uric acid in the body makes the stomach very wheezy. And, I just don't want to eat anything. I just feel so bad in my stomach, And those are all Prabhupada's symptoms. And then from not eating, the body starts eating itself, and he deteriorates. Those are the actual symptoms of the analysis, for history's sake. He never said anything about poison or anything. Prabhupada's skin was like butter. It was so soft and gentle and like a baby's skin. Anyway, so I said, okay, so if we submit to everything, how much time can you give him? I was baiting a trap here, right? So, he knew it was a stupid question, but at the same time, it was a sincere question. I wanted him to guess. And he went outside of his normal medical protocol, and he agreed to guest. Like I said, he was a real gentleman. And he said, look, nobody knows, but I'll say 3-4 months. He said, but let me say something. I know you're a fanatic, right? And you're going to think it's a miracle. He said, but all the time I see people live beyond when they should be alive. He said, it's not a miracle, it's the failings of medical science. We don't know. It says we don't know, right? So he said, but 3-4 months. So I paused, tried to build a little drama there. I said, Dr. McCormick, or whatever it was, I said, he doesn't want 3 or 4 months. He just wants to go home. And I was silent. He took a breath and he said, okay, I'll do it I'll break all hospital protocol, risk my career. I mean, this is the subtext. And I'll operate without life support. Prabhupada was on the threshold of death by medical analysis. And you're not allowed to cut a person open in that condition without life support, without tubes and pipes, as Prabhupada called them. And the doctor agreed to do it. So, I'll cut to the chase. Next day, I was caring for Prabhupada's wound, as I'd been instructed. And the protocol in that time in London was that the nurse has to come the next day and check on the patient, because he was outpatient. He didn't stay in the hospital. So I told Prabhupada the nurse is coming, and Prabhupada again said, no, the doctor must come. I said, Srila Prabhupada, he's the head surgeon of the whole hospital. He's going to make a house call and check on the little stitches, you know. Prabhupada said, no, you do not change the horse in the middle of the river. I said, okay. So I called up Dr. McCormick. Prabhupada wants you. He doesn't want a nurse. And he immediately said, all right, I'll come. He came. And he checked. Simple thing any nurse could have done, any probably nurse assistant could have done. Just check the wound, you know. And then he was leaning over Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was looking up at him like a little baby, like a little child with his eyes sparkling. He said, you have saved my life. Thank you very much. Yeah. Just charmed everyone. Even when we flew, the pilots, you may know, they used to always come back. Because in those days, they did come back. They would check. It was like an old sailing boat protocol or passenger ship protocol. The pilots of planes would behave very much in the same protocol. So they would, at some point in the flight, they would hand over the wheel to the co-pilot, and they would walk the passenger aisle and see everybody is okay, everybody's okay. And they would always stop and talk to Prabhupada. And he just charmed the heck out of them. And all the stewardesses were always so eager to, you know, talk to him, give him something. Who was telling me? So many different incidences with the stewardesses that connected to devotees. Some became devotees later. So many amazing stories. Who?
Well, she actually grabbed the puppies from what he was eating. The stewardess. She just
Yeah.
Later on, they were preaching in the jungles of Brazil, and they came to a house, and it was a temple, and it was that stewardess.
Yeah. And this was, look, I'm an amateur historian. And I have some friends who are professors of history, and I can tell you, they have a hard time keeping up with me in terms of the breadth of my, readings and remembrances. Because I'm fascinated with history because there's so many lessons in it. I admit it's probably not the best thing as a devotee, but I'm not yet a devotee, so that's sort of my bad habit. But I can tell you in history, I've read about a lot of amazing people and great people. And I couldn't hold a candle to what I saw. They couldn't hold a candle. Just, he was magic. He'd conquered sleep. He'd conquered our hearts. It was would have conquered the world had we been better followers. By this time, I always say, if we were actually his followers, the President of the United States would be wearing tilak in Kuntimala today. If he were still here, that's where we'd be today. Forget just one Tulsi Gabbard. The President of the United States would be a Vaishnava if he was still here.
We thought Bhagavad-Gita was going to be president, and everyone thought my son Vrindavan and Gurukula was going to be president of the United States. And he really thought that.
Yeah, well, it's still...
He ran for office in Florida, Bhagavad-Gita, but what he realized is that you can be a good person, but who you're surrounded by...
Yeah, it's quite an evil world. Well,
I was going to mention that you were saying about historian. Prabhupada also an amazing historian. Whenever he speaks, he always refers to something in history to make the point relevant.
Yeah.
Just like you were noticing he was using the Latin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can say this, that a lesson from history. There's a pattern, there are patterns. The world it's all patterns. Ultimately, our just brain can't wrap its arms around the patterns. It's all patterns, right? Because it's the fingerprints of the Lord. Nature are the fingerprints of the Lord. And that's what classical music, classical architecture, classical art, it attempts to, the definition of classical, the correct definition, is that it attempts to celebrate the imprints of God by drawing out of nature. Whereas the so-called modern attempts to belittle it, to, revolt against it, to just throw the paint, But actually, even in throwing the paint, patterns occur. You're not even trying, patterns occur. So one of the patterns is that in history, so-called men of great achievement, I won't say great men generally, let's take Genghis Khan. Obviously he's not a good man, but he achieved great things in terms of conquest. And this pattern occurs many times. His son was a complete loser, like me. But his grandson, Kublai Khan, went further than he did. In his life, Genghis Khan did not conquer China, but he wanted to conquer China. Now, his son almost lost the whole empire, almost completely lost the whole empire. But then his son, Kublai Khan, his grandson, came along and boom, it happened bigger, right? So Kublai Khan actually did more. Genghis, it's hard to say because Genghis established the foundation. Henry Ford, his son Edsel was a complete putz. Almost destroyed the company. But then the next Ford came and he built it up to great heights. That pattern keeps occurring again and again, business and in leadership. And so take that as an encouragement that you should take it further. Yeah, you're the grandchildren, you have a legacy. And the grandchildren there's a funny thing. The father loves his kids like he can't imagine the depths of his love. A sane father, a good father, right? Not everyone's sane in this terrible age. But a grandfather, somehow he finds more love. When that same father becomes a grandfather, the love even gets deeper, right? So you're actually in an advantageous position. Every disadvantage has an advantage. There's always a balance there. And to do something great for your grandfather, for Srila Prabhupada, that will make you very happy. It'll make Prabhupada very happy. And that's what he expects. And that's why he wrote the Bhakti-Vedanta purports for you. And left, so he was very careful to make sure the recording machine was there recording him. Why? Because of you. Take it forward. Be bold. Do the impossible. But it just requires that you yourself practice. Take it very seriously. I mean, just the simple thing of chanting japa, it's not an easy thing. Do you know actually that, I can quote some verses, but I won't, but Narada Muni himself talks about how his perfection came from sitting in asana Can you sit and chant your japa without moving? Huh? Well, when you can, you will have achieved a very, very high level. In fact, that's very difficult, isn't it? The mind is always going to the market, doing something. It's running away. As soon as we pull it back and we think we're back on point, and the next thing you know, wait, whoa, where'd it go? It's gone back over there. What are you doing? Come back here, right? It keeps moving. And then what do? We get up and we have to walk. We have to pace because we can't sit still. We can't focus. We can't do asana even. Right? That's the beginning of the Eightfold Mystic Yoga process, is asana. You have to sit and do asana. We can't do it. So there's a long way to go. It could happen very fast, but it's not just done sort of laissez-faire when you are lazy in a lazy way. Right? It's undertaken with great seriousness and with great intellect. You have to bring your intellect out and exercise it every day. Prabhupada did not appreciate blind followers. I remember we used to walk out this gate in the morning for morning walk. In those days, this, what was called Chatikara Road, which is now called Bhakti-Vedanta Road and Prem Mandir or something else. And anyway, there's going on. But in those days, it was Chatikara Road.
It was named Bhakti-Vedanta Marg.
Yeah.
And there was a big ceremony I was at.
Yeah.
The mayor, who was probably Vishwambar Kumar was there, cut a ribbon. But is the name changed back to something?
No, they kept
What's going on?
They went to the court and it is now Marg.
So I'll just give this example of Prabhupada expected us to be intelligent, right? So we would go out this gate, and when we went up this way, it was all forest. There was nothing but jungle. In fact, once I almost got stampeded by about 25 Nilgai, because they were regularly running in this forest. And Nilgai they're an antelope. They're an Indian antelope. They're big as a small pony. And there used to be so many peacocks and birds. And so there was one devotee, and I won't bring his name out, but he was quite an emotional and extreme sort of devotee, and Prabhupada would come out the gate, and he was always waiting with flowers, and he would say, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Haribol, like that. And Prabhupada, okay, take the flower, and then he would go on and walk. And one day we were going out the gate, and it had rained, and there was a puddle there. And it was just what this devotee was waiting for, to show his devotion. So he dove Dandabats into that water. Oh, Jai Srila Prabhupada! And water was all over him. And I looked at Prabhupada, and he just went. Like, he loved him, but.
He told him to do something practical.
Do something practical. He told that one, do something practical. He wasn't there to be adored. Prabhupada was there to do something practical for the whole world. He wasn't there to.
When Prabhupada came in, after beating the deeds, he went up to him, and he went down on his knees, and he said, absolutely sincere, thou hast proved. Personal calamity, thou hast proved. Srila Prabhupada was so pleased, he was rubbing his head with 2 hands. Yeah.
Some friends wanted to bring some flowers. You wanted to bring flowers? What is?
We would like to bring flowers.
Huh?
Yeah, we would love to.
Okay, can you just let them come through?
Thank you so much.
Let them come through. How beautiful. Was there a wedding or something? What happened?
No wedding. An engagement.
Okay. Was that the event today?
No.
Just coming for darshan?
Yes.
Very nice. Beautiful. You have a beautiful family.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure you're going to bless the world with great, great devotees of Krishna. Is this little girl part of this family? Look at her. Please let them come. Yeah. So Prabhupada wanted us to learn about real culture. I mentioned that. Indian culture. No? And it's a family culture. Yeah. Sure. Sure, sure. It's okay. It's okay for such nice people to come. So he's becoming the senior man in the family? This one? Okay. Very good. Very good. Oh, he's got a bead bag. Hare Krishna.
Happy engagement.
Stay engaged with Krishna consciousness.
They came to get blessings for their engagement.
You know, when we first came, there was only a few of us, you know. Wasn't a lot. Hare Krishna.
Make sure they get prashadam.
Hare Krishna. Prabhupada cared about every single person. Never ignored
I
anyone.
was just thinking the story of the doctor, and he just wanted the doctor to come see him again to get his mercy.
They could bless him.
Right.
With the thanks. I mean, Prabhupada claimed you saved my life. What kind of benefit is that? Right? Whoa. It's incredible. But Prabhupada loved India, of course, loved the Indian people. And he wanted us to learn Hindi, he wanted us to understand the culture and adapt it, not to bring American culture here. And so many times it seems that's what we're doing. Oof. It's an abomination. Because the Indian culture is so beautiful. And it's the perfect soil to grow the bhakti lata inside of. You cannot grow it in Western. So that's salty, nasty soil in the West. You can't grow the bhakti lata there. No. You have to culture your heart. You have to learn great humility. And if you don't learn it, then life will beat you down. It will beat you down until you learn. It will, just like the mill, a grist mill, it will grind you until you're fine powder. Right? And it will never stop. And there is no material solution. But here you'll find what you're seeking, what your heart is seeking. And you'll find it in the divine persons. Srila Prabhupada being our emblem of divine personalities. And and if you pray to him and follow him, he will appear to you. You know, so many people we all have dreams about people that come in our life. Prabhupada will come in your dreams. He does that. Because he's very much alive. That same situation where I told you Prabhupada said I have one lamentation. Another thing. Actually, somehow I had Prabhupada there, right by the edge, and I don't remember why. Again, I was massaging him. And Brahmananda came in. Brahmananda was, Prabhupada's son. You just loved Brahmananda so much. Brahmananda was eternal son of Prabhupada. Brahmananda said, Srila Prabhupada, will we be with you in the spiritual sky? Or I think he said in Krishna Loka. And Prabhupada said, when we go to Krishna Loka, the residents of Vaikuntha will fly by in their flower airplanes, and they will look down, and they will say, oh, look at the nice guru and his disciples. And that's not just the 6,000 or 7,000 member family of the first generation. There's plenty of room in Krishna Loka, believe me. That's a very, very big family. Bhakti-Vinod Thakur will be there. Rup Goswami will be there. When I was TP at Calcutta, I remember the great-grandnephew of Bhakti-Vinod Thakur used to come to talk to me. He looked exactly like Bhakti-Vinod Thakur. And I thought he was questioning me about the movement. And I thought I was reporting to Bhakti-Vinod Thakur himself, because he was so interested. He wanted to know what was going on. And who was he? I don't know. He came about 4 or 5 times, and then he just stopped coming. I don't know what happened. He just disappeared.
Use the mic so they can hear him. Let him use the mic for his question.
I was just talking about Krishna Loka. I heard somewhere that Krishna Loka is actually the shape of a lotus, and it actually expands and contracts according to the numbers going in, going out. It's like.
Well, I mean, that's a subject of course, Brahma Samhita, and in other texts also. But I don't know anything about that place. I haven't been there. And I'm not sure I'll ever be there. I'll tell you frankly, when I heard, Prabhupada once was asked, Prabhupada, are the Pandavas in Krishna Loka? He said, no. They're eternally in the material world with the pastimes of Krishna. And I said, I want on that boat. I want to be with Prabhupada, wherever he is. I don't know Krishna. I chant his name. I beg him to help me become a servant of Prabhupada. But a little bit I know Prabhupada, and I'll be quite happy if I just wherever he is. And of course, he's always in Krishna Loka, but I may not be his assistant there. He may keep me, washing dishes and sweeping floors and wherever he is.
Some devotees asked Prabhupada where he was going next. I don't remember the story exactly, but he said he was going to Taloka, and they said they wanted to go with him. And it's interesting, I was speaking to the devotee that just died, right the day before he died, and he said that if hell is where Prabhupada wants him to go, that's where he's going. And I said, well, if that's where he wants me to go, I'll meet you there.
Yeah.
Just a small explanation. I just asked this question, the same on this point when you said, I'm not sure I'll go to back to God about it. So I asked this question, similar question in ISKCON temple, and he's all in the Japan Maharaj. He is my Guru Maharaj. So I put this question to him, and just jokingly, you joking to the Guru and all that thing. So I was just jokingly asked this question. That I was thinking, I said, I'm not sure that I'll go to back to God. So we just paused for some time, 10 seconds, and then he said, do you have doubt on Prasada? Do you have doubt on, all these things around? So means basically he was trying to say that you don't, everything is present, right, next to you. How can you have doubt that you won't go to back to God? And that it's like a small joke.
Well, many of you are young, and you still have some hope in your heart that life will somehow be good. I have time. Maybe I had some bad bumps, but in time it'll sort out. And I'm still young. I feel, a little energy in me. Maybe I'll find a husband or a wife. Maybe I'll have a nice family. Maybe something else will happen. But as you go along, and you'll do some of those things, all those hopes will be hammered down. It's not Prabhupada's doing. It's the design of this material world. And it happens to everybody. Not people in ISKCON are not specific to it. It happens to everybody. The question is, do you have the wisdom to harness that pain and turn it into the driving energy to call out to the Lord through his name? That's the secret. Queen Kunti gives that secret in her prayers. She loved that pain. She said, bring it on. I want more, because it makes me turn to you. It makes me lunge to your feet, and you come. You come. And I just want that. No matter what I have to do, even if it hurts, if you come to save me, that's everything. Right? So learn to harness that pain to drive you forward. Cry through the name. Cry out to the Lord. Again, life is never going to be he, ha, ha. That's not the truth about life. And there's a huge machine out there trying to convince us by putting up beautiful people on the silver screen and saying, see, they're having relations with each other. They're, getting married, getting divorced, they have money, they must be having that. And we're thinking, yes, there's hope. There's hope. They must be. Oh, he got divorced? Oh, ooh. Oops.
Aren't you saying that if you were with Krishna in the material world, with the reoccurring pastimes, if you can be with Srila Prabhupada, then that's the same as being out there?
Well, for me, that's my perfection. I can't. I know he's kind enough to overlook my great frailties and bad qualities, and he took me in and fully took me in, and so I feel very optimistic about that. I don't know if Krishna will ever let me in.
Is that correct?
I don't know. I don't know. That's how I feel.
Consciousness. Yeah, we don't want to be liberated and free from suffering. We want to be with Krishna and Prabhupada.
That's a very, all these subjects like liberation, we often, we have not much choice. We think about it in a three-dimensional format, and it just doesn't fit like that. I mean, as soon as we're having kirtan, you're liberated. Just, hello, open up your brain, open up your heart, feel it. It's all around you. You're liberated in that moment. Just learn to stay in that ocean of sweetness. Just stay in it. Always have the name bouncing around inside of you. Have that tune going on in your head. Have it, work towards that. And you are liberated. Within this body, you're liberated. Whereas you can do the whole Eightfold Mystic Yoga process, achieve a place high up above the Mahatattva in some sort of buzzing, bright place where you don't feel any pain, you feel eternity, but you don't feel that loving ocean of love, that's surrounding you and churning your heart and filling you with happinesses that you just could have never dreamed could exist. So just take the name and do everything you need to honor the name. Remember, the name is Krishna. You're sitting with Krishna. Don't be distracted. It's a very insulting thing. If I'm sitting with a friend and I'm looking at my cell phone, he's talking to me, and I'm going like this, he's going to think, he doesn't think much about me, right? So I don't know, maybe I shouldn't invest my heart with him. So you have to show Krishna. And I really want you. That's how I came to this movement. It was that prayer. I had been seeking my whole life since I could start to think. I went to seminary school, I thought I'd be a priest, and then after a while I thought, this is bullshit. I'm not going here. These people don't have any answers. They just have fanatical, dogma. I have to follow it because the Holy See dictated that I have to follow it. So that's not good enough for me. Then I started reading Bhagavad-Gita when I was about 14, and I became vegetarian and went through the whole psychedelic, process to try to see God, go in the forests and take magic mushrooms and try to listen to Mozart, Beethoven, see if they had a clue everywhere I was going, right? And finally I was sitting, I was just late 18 years old, and I was sitting in my sunroom. I had all books, Tibetan Book of the Dead and Bhagavad-Gita and the Bible and something. I was trying to figure out what was what. And I remember it was a Sunday in Detroit. Detroit has terrible winters. Gray, you don't see the sun for weeks sometimes. Just gray, nasty skies, snow, cold. This was actually December, late December, just before Christmas. And it was a Sunday morning. The cars had not moved around yet. There was fresh snow on the ground. I looked out. There was no tire tracks, no footprints, but there was one old lady with, the babushka, they call it, with the, scarf tied, the little rubber boots, like that, long wool coat. She had a bag, grocery bag, and she was trudging through the snow alone, no one helping her. God knows if anyone was even waiting for her. And I realized that's me. That's my soul. in this universe. And I was on my knees looking, and I cried out, "Oh Lord, wherever you are, whatever I have to do, please bring me to you." That afternoon, the lady was with me, who was a model, and she became my wife later, and she joined the movement with me. She brought a pamphlet, which we'd never heard of Prabhupada, the movement. There was only 7 temples in the world. It was very early. She slid it under my door, this pamphlet, Krishna, the Reservoir of Pleasure, and it was crazy. And I looked at that picture of Prabhupada, and that was it, because I had made that prayer. And I said, I'm ready for anything, any difficulty, any adventure. I'm ready to go out in the streets, shave my head, wear sheets. Those days we didn't have dhotis, we had sheets. We had sheets. We looked ridiculous. Really. I'll tell you another story. I was kind of a little bit of a leader in my group, in my community, and the hippies and stuff. And there was one lady who I just adored throughout my high school. She was untouchable by me. She was Janie Deal. She was like the goddess, right? And everybody that had any brains admired her. She was a very intelligent person, very beautiful person, and a nice person. But nothing ever happened, right? She kind of knew me. She knew who I was. That was it. So I became a devotee. And we were doing kirtan outside of the musical Hair, which was where they first started chanting Hare Krishna on the stage. It's a musical in America. And all the hippies were going. So I was leading the kirtan outside. And out of the theater at the end comes a whole bunch of people, and Janie Deal with all her gopis. She's usually surrounded by lots of women who wanted to be near her, and she comes out and she sees me. She walks up and plants a big kiss on me. I'm playing the drum. I'm shaved up. And I stopped for one split second, and I thought, Janie Deal? Kirtan? Janie Deal? Kirtan? Obviously you know what my decision was. And she happily danced off with her gopi girls, and that was the end of it. So these things, you have to make that decision. You have to say, this is it. I'm going to take a stand. For once, Prabhupada said, give one lifetime. Just give one lifetime to Krishna. Just try that. He said, you will not be the loser. And I can tell you now, how many years? 52, 53 years in, since I came, I have not been the loser. I have gained everything. I've gained life, real life. It dances in my heart. I feel happy. Even in my tears, I feel happy. We've all suffered in many ways, but even in our tears, we feel happy. Because we know it's bringing us closer to Krishna. Just let it churn your heart, let it drive you forward. And give up everything else, just give one lifetime to Krishna. And you will never regret it, and you will never turn back. Because there's nothing back there. Today, I guarantee you, Janie Deal is probably 220 pounds. She probably got 6 kids, right? Huh? Probably divorced 3 times. She's a wreck. She'll be an absolute, like an old car. Like an old car is all rusty. The ones they park in front of the police thana? The cars? And they sit there for 30 years because they don't have a law where they can dispose of them, so they have to leave it. You ever wonder why that is in India? You see the police place and they have all these rusty old cars full of dust. It's because the law doesn't allow them to dispose of it. So I'm sure she's just like that now. So what have I lost? I've only gained. You become free of all these silly things that just would enslave you, right? I don't know if I should keep going, keeping everyone from all their important activities.
Hearing, Prophet said hearing is
Well, it is my duty to do whatever you want me to do. I have made it very clear in my life now. Actually, my sister was asking me, my little sister, and so, the one I always harass and, make bad jokes on her, but she adores me. And she said, well, so what is your life? What is your life now? Because you're an old man now. So I said, well, I think I've distilled it down. There's only two things I want. I want to live a life of quiet dignity. I don't want fame. I don't want to be somebody's guru. I don't want to be popular. I don't want anyone to even notice me. You might know, I make great efforts so nobody notices me. I try to stay away because it doesn't help me. And two, I only want to help others. Those are the only two things I have left to live for. And in that, of course, it's in the context of who He made us. In that I find the whole Garden of Eden, paradise itself, just giving to others and trying to live in some quiet dignity, which, of course, that is the environment for the path of bhakti. Someday I'll take that path also. But even getting close to bhakti, even getting close to sitting in this room again, some devotee came in, was talking to Prabhupada about something, and they said, Srila Prabhupada, because we're Vaishnavas, he was going to say we have a different view of something. But the devotee said, but because we're Vaishnavas, and Prabhupada interrupted, he said, we are not Vaishnavas. He was shocked. He said, we're not Vaishnavas. We are trying to be Vaishnavas. It is not so easy thing. Prabhupada didn't say you, he said we. It's a very big thing. And even just to be near the Vaishnavas, your life becomes perfected. I mean, you can't imagine there's anything more, although there's so much more. There's so much more to come. But you're full. And just by carrying on, trying to make yourself a real servant of the divine personages, Krishna and all of his devotees, all of your heart's desires will be fulfilled. And all of your, whatever you could have dreamed, will come better. It won't come the way you planned it, but you'll realize, whoa, this is way better. This is way better. I had a really stupid plan for happiness. It was really dumb, like Janie Deal. It was really a dumb idea. I would have been in a fix, right? So, just give one life to Krishna. He said what?
Anyone who chants once Hare Krishna is a Vaishnava.
Well, in that moment he's a Vaishnava, okay? In that moment he's a Vaishnava. So again, definitions, reality, the true reality, the true definitions don't fit in 3 dimensions. They're dynamic, they're alive. Srila Prabhupada he was unpredictable. Unpredictable. He was alive, he was vital. I'll give you a simple example. Again, I'm going to steal from Shri Rupa, who's my wife. Took care of Prabhupada, served Prabhupada. She was his cook for a lot of times. When she was first being trained to be a cook by Palika, she was watching everything like a hawk. And she helped all the cooking, and she was already quite an accomplished cook. She did the editing of Jamuna's cookbook. You'll see our name in the beginning of the cookbook and acknowledge it, but it's our passport name. It doesn't say Abhiram or Shruta, it says Fawny Spotswood and John Sims. So she was watching, and Palika was coming in with the plate, and there were ants on Prabhupada's table because he had eaten there before. And she started wiping them. And Prabhupada said, what are you doing? She said, well, I'm wiping the ants. And Prabhupada said, simply knock. They will run away. Right? Okay. So another month or two later, Shrudi's bringing in, she's fully cooking now. She's not in training anymore. And she's putting the plate down and there's ants. So she starts knocking on the table. And Prabhupada looks at her. He said, Hari Baba, what are you doing? Like you're nuts. She said, well, I'm making the ants go. He said, simply wipe them away. So it was never a program. There was no logarithm there. He was alive. He was touching Krishna. And Krishna is ever changing. You know, it's constantly looks different even. Every time you turn a little angle, every time you look again, he looks different. Just like you read the Gita and you read something new, right? You feel a new experience in it. What to speak of Krishna? He's constantly changing. He's constantly dynamic. This is a different dimension. You can't put it through this little tiny processor. It doesn't work. You have to free the heart from arrogance, from envy, by diligent practice of sadhana. And then that dimension can start to manifest inside of you, can start to see that Krishna is actually here right now. Right now. One of his names is Gupt, right? Gupt, he's hidden. He's the hidden one. It's like, you know, you play hide and seek when you're a child, and sometimes there's someone who's extremely good at it, right? Well, that's Krishna. It's like, where did he go? Right? Well, he's right in front of you. He's the master at that game. He's right in front of you. And someday, you'll see him. I think it was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati who said that the devotee meditates on the lotus feet of the deity. He meditates on the feet of the deity. He doesn't look up. He looks at the deity's feet. And one day, Krishna will say, hello. So make yourself so attractive that Krishna wants to come to you, because you can't catch him. One of his names is Ranchor. He ran away. He couldn't be caught. He ran away. Right? So make yourself so attractive by staying close to those who are attractive, the Vaishnavas, and serve them, get their blessings. They give their blessings so easily, so eagerly, so readily. They don't hold back. You just have to go and take them. Instead of taking them, throwing them out, I want another, realize the precious gift that every word, every moment, every instruction is for our benefit. Take those blessings, make your life around that, and give your life to Krishna. And just once. You'll get more lives, don't worry. They're there. And, soon you'll be old like me. My father gave me very wise advice as he realized I was old, and I was realizing I was old. And he's very experienced at being old, right? Well, he's in his 90s. So he said, don't worry about old age. You get over it pretty quick. Right? Means it doesn't last. You're dead. So soon you'll be also old. You'll be surprised. Already you can't believe how old you are when you really look back. You still think you're a kid, right? I still think I'm a kid.
One time this Shruti Prabhupada, I said, Prabhupada said, he was just so he was just saying, we were just talking, here in Bhagavad, and he just said something which struck me very, very hard. He said that when I was 20 years old, I was thinking, 40 years very far, I mean 60 years very far. When I reached 40, it looked like 60 still is far. Now it's, you never know when it comes, it just comes. So when I was 20, I was thinking 60, like, you look like you're very, with white, grey hair, and everything is very far. But it will come, when I was 10, I used to think of 30 years, 40 years.
Maybe if I dye my hair, I'll feel younger, you think? Will I live a little longer? I can get some surgery, maybe. Huh? Yeah, a little facelift and go to the gym. Keep going a little bit more. Huh? How pathetic. How pathetic. Let it happen. Let nature take its course. Be healthy. Appreciate the body that's given to you. But don't put your hopes there, because it'll go. It'll go. And Prabhupada told us that. He said, don't think this will not happen to you when he was laying in this bed. Do not think this will not happen to you. It will. And now you're seeing so many devotees are dying. How is that they die in Krishna? I have seen so many devotees who had gone away for decades, 20 years, 30 years, like Prabhupada's first disciples. Some of them went away. And then they got the news, you have stage 4. You have this, you're going to die in 6 months. And they come to Vrindavan. And I have seen time and time again, even they die a beautiful death. They turn to Krishna and they die a beautiful death. It's the only way to go. So it's the only way to go. Otherwise it's quite frightening. It's quite horrible. But when you put your faith in Krishna, he will come and hold you, literally hold you through that final process. And I have seen my godbrothers fall into that happy reverie and confidence and just feel they're being carried by Krishna out. So there's so many reasons to take this seriously. I think I'm keeping you all just yakking, you know. Yeah.
I don't live near here, so otherwise I would stay, but I have to get a rickshaw. They
Oh,
go
no.
to my building if I get too late.
Okay,
So
okay.
that's the only reason I'm leaving.
Thank you for your insights.
Love to stay.
Haribol.
I'm not ready to sleep on If it comes to that, I'll do it. But right now, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
This is being recorded on ISKCON Vrindavan TV, courtesy of Jagannation, so we'll be able to hear these pastimes. And you can tell others.
Well, you notice I don't tell chronological pastimes, and the book I'm starting to write is not a chronological book. It's not then he went here, then he went here. I just think of lessons, and then I pull an anecdote out of whatever experience I can, and then I just write a little paragraph about that activity or experience, and then I explain the lesson that comes out of it. So it's more lesson-oriented. I think the Bhagavatam's kind of like that. It's more lesson-oriented. It's not a chronological, exactly, history. And so that's kind of why I say I kind of ramble. But because I'm more interested in the lesson. What was the lesson? And similarly, when I look at history, it's the same thing. I don't try to say, well, then this general, and then this one became king. I don't care about dates. These different ideas came. They tried, they failed for different reasons. What's the lesson to learn out of it, Yeah.
Prabhupada says, don't think this won't happen to you. Also, Prabhupada says that it can come at any moment. So, isn't there a possibility that we will leave before old age?
That we could?
Leave before old age sets in.
Leave the?
Before old age sets in.
Oh, well, it happens all the time, doesn't it? I mean, you know better than me. You just observe. Sure, it happens all the time. It's always a surprise. It's always a shock. And it always seems that it doesn't make sense. It's a funny thing that death is so confusing to us. Some of you must have had someone die or someone you knew. It happens, and if you didn't, you will. I promise you that. And it's always confusing. What? I just saw her. I just saw him. What are you talking? Last month No, it's always a surprise. Why is it a surprise? And why is it fearful? Because it's foreign to us. Because we are eternal. We're not supposed to die because we don't die. But because we've identified with something that dies, it's like if I think I'm my Porsche. I used to have a Porsche, right? A real fancy 911 car. I thought it was really a super guy, And I loved that car. I used to say, it's not a car. It's my friend. In fact, I thought it was me. When I'd go 60 miles an hour on the freeway, that little tail would come up, the air fin. Well, I was so excited about that car. And I That was a piece of engineering art. Wasn't a car? What are you talking about, right? And but if I kept that going, and the car eventually starts rusting and deteriorating, and how sad I would become. But at some point I decided, okay, it's time to move back to India. It was 1992 when I came back after Prabhupada left. I sold my Porsche, and then all my friends said, oh, he's really serious this time. He's not coming back. But if you become attached to something that's going to rust away, or a woman or a man that's going to become fat and old and stupid, okay, we take care of those we love, but we have to live in a more beautiful space. We have to live in a space that doesn't deteriorate, doesn't, disappear, or our happiness will disappear very quickly. So, obviously you know all that. I'm just trying to sound clever.
I just read somewhere. If you associate or relate your happiness to a particular thing, if you relate your happiness to a particular thing, and suppose if the thing is not there, then you will become sad.
Right.
So don't associate or relate your happiness to a particular thing, object.
But at this point, you don't know yourself. We don't know ourselves. So how can we just reside within our soul, right? That's the process of study, sadhana, kirtan, japa. You start to feel your real self resonating. When you go in a kirtan, there's a vibrational response that comes from, just like when you make a loud sound near if you have a cymbal or a musical instrument, that it will resonate without even touching it sometimes, and you'll know that it's there, right? So when you're in kirtan, you feel something happening, and as you keep doing that, and in your japa, eventually you start realizing, that's me in there. That's who's feeling that. And you start becoming familiar with yourself. How can you say, I'm not this body, I'm this soul? Okay, that's nice intellectually, but do you realize it? Do you see it? Do you feel it? Do you live in that awareness? And that's what's happening by chanting the holy name, because it's vibrating, it's bouncing off of the only piece of you that can actually receive the name. It's not this, it's in here. And as you experience that again and again, you gradually start to become aware of who you are. Because what is the name? The name is absorption in the service and love and adoration of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And you start realizing, well, that's who I am. That's why it's resonating. That's why I'm feeling so excited about it. That's why I'm an old bugger and I still want to jump up and down in the kirtan. I don't care if I have a heart attack. Let me have a heart attack. I remember being on Harinam. Some of you will relate to this. When I was 62, my whole business empire crashed. And I was absolutely devastated. The devotees had rejected me, and I felt, I'm just going to kill myself. Life is over. But then I thought, okay, let me try one more thing. I'm going to go back to the basics. And I went out in Harinam with Ram Roy and his team and built up a Harinam party. At 62 years old, I'd been a multimillionaire. I'd been a temple president of many temples. I'd done so many things that I'm sitting on the cold concrete in New York City banging the bells like a lunatic. Right? But I remember being in those kirtans, and I used to sing out, kill me now. Take me, give me a heart attack. Come on, let's do a harder kirtan. Let's go more. And we're already breaking the instruments, and we're ripping our throats, and more. Anayor. Go for it. If you're going to live with full. What would be the right word? You picked a word. Go for it. You've got nothing to lose. Because you basically, I got to tell you, no offense intended, you got nothing. Except this. This is your only chance. It really is. I'm not trying to, humiliate anyone, or we have nothing. I kind kind of been up there, you know. I sat as the CEO in companies with a plane waiting for me outside, with a Porsche in the driveway, with billionaires sitting in my board. I'm the chairman. You know, I've been there. I was just an idiot, but I was there. And I knew them. And I didn't see anything worth going for. I really didn't. When Cyrus Mistry died from Shapraji Punch, I got condolences from London, from America. They say, oh, your friend died. I thought, he wasn't my friend. He was an idiot. Yeah, he sat on my board. I traveled around with him. And so what? He was an idiot, you know. He was an idiot. There was no loss. Everybody was saying, oh, what a great... I was thinking, what loss? He was an idiot. He was a selfish, greedy idiot. I didn't see a single good quality in him except that he was a little polite. That was it. Otherwise, he was just trying to gobble up everything. You know? And the whole country, the newspaper, oh, the great loss. And I was mystified. You know, how could such a person be a loss? It was a benefit for the world that he died. So there's nothing there. There really is nothing there. And what? Shruti, my wife, her father was a senator. He was the richest man in Florida. She didn't know. She told me, nice thing for a wife to say. She said, I never had an unhappy day in my whole life until I married you. But that was her childhood. It was a charmed childhood. She grew up in her father owned an island in the Caribbean. You know, they had yachts, airplanes. You know, presidents were visiting. And as soon as she met Prabhupada, she just said, these are all idiots. I don't want anything to do with them. I only want to be with Prabhupada. That's it. There's not a single thing worth anything in this world. And when Ambarish got to know us and got to know her, he said, I didn't live a life that nice. I said, whoa. He said, she lived a nice life. Right? And it was nothing. It was nothing. It was nothing. So let's go for it. We have such an opportunity in this lifetime. Don't spoil it. I told that several times to people that were talking about suicide, devotees that were talking about it, or had tried suicide, you know. I said, what kind of idiot are you? You've got Prabhupada in your life. He's so kind. He makes the path so clear, so accessible. What the hell are you thinking? This is your golden opportunity. Take it. Prabhupada will come and visit you in your heart. That's a fact. He will reside in your heart. He will come in your dreams. He will guide you. So I think I should, I'm getting carried, you know. Everybody's getting hypnotized or something, you know, and they think they're hearing something good, but you're all very kind people. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai. Hari Bol, Hari Bol.